All right, it looks like we are live. Thank you so much, Katie, for jumping in today while the Substack interwebs are announcing that we are live. I am just going to just say that what a whirlwind of like 24 hours you've had. This has
Not
been a little
expected.
different.
A little different. I did
A tiny bit
not.
different.
I thought I was flying to Phoenix for a speech and
Yeah.
of a turnaround. I did not expect that I was going to be fielding media requests while on the plane and trying to figure out how to get a photo to AP and CNN and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. And then waking up at 5 a.m. to write a piece.
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole point of us gathering today is to talk about this White House photo that happened to just go viral. Um, and just figure out, like, talk through the process of like capturing it. I feel like the story isn't really you took a picture out of the plane. It's that what you did once you realized what you had. That like you needed to do something with this photo, and how that translated into what you publish for your readers each week. So you're flying out of DCA. Are you normally taking pictures out the window? Like I would
So
imagine you're pretty busy. I know you well enough to know that like you've got your head down, pretty focused. So
I
what
was
prompted even taking a photo?
So, for those folks that have ever flown in or out of DCA, there is one route that takes you along the Potomac, and you can see the mall. And if you're lucky on the side, you get to see the mall with the Capitol and the White House and everything. The other side, you get to see the Pentagon. So I was just like you said, I was in my phone. I was just scrolling, checking email, all those different things. And we started to go down the runway. And all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, I'm gonna be on the side of the National Mall. And I always try to make it a point to look at that because it's such a special view that not that many people get. And so I just happened to look up off my phone and look outside. And then I saw the East Wing demolition. And I got to tell you, it was just gut instinct. I did not think about it. I was not prepped like beforehand to be like, I'm going to
Yeah.
get this picture. I just grabbed my phone, zoomed in, snapped as many, just hit boom, boom, boom to try to get as many as I could because you only have like 15 seconds before the plane passes that particular spot. So, like,
Yeah.
in hindsight, I wish I'd gotten video
Yeah.
of it, but I got this photo. And my first instinct was to post it to a group chat I have. And I was like, oh my God, look at all the destruction or the demolition. This is much bigger than I guess I just didn't realize it was going to be this big. And immediately my group chat was like, and I was already thinking, oh, I'm going to put this on socials. And my group chat was like, get this out on socials. And so thankfully, Delta has a good Wi Fi. And I posted to Blue Sky, to Twitter, to Instagram, TikTok, all of the different threads, all the different places. Blue Sky took off at first. And then I was like, I wonder if Twitter's going to take off. And then that took off. And then before I even landed in Detroit, I was starting to get media requests for people wanting to use the photo for everything. And then when I took off from Detroit to Phoenix, I was about 30 minutes outside of Phoenix, and I had CNN on because I knew they'd asked for the picture. And I saw it on CNN, and then I turned on MSNBC, and then it was on MSNBC. So it's kind of wild that I took the picture, posted on socials, then I started getting all this outreach, and it was on TV before I even landed.
That's that is that is the speed of daytime news coverage right
Well,
there.
what's
Grabbing.
also wild about all of this is it was 1:10 in the afternoon. I was not the first person to have taken a flight and to have that window seat to see that view that day.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of wild for me that I was the first person to take it and share it in a way that got a lot of attention, which is one of those things, I guess, that was just because I guess they had just finished all the demolition. Like right before I took off. So I just happened to get a shot that no other news org could get on the ground because that airspace is closed. Because if you remember, there was that plane crash with the helicopter at DCA earlier this year.
Yeah.
News orgs haven't been able to fly over the White House because it's restricted airspace. So you can't get that picture. But even still, the fact that no other passenger, reporters, anybody else had done it, it's just I was just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. And tell folks a little bit. I see we've got a lot of folks joining. It's really lovely to see all of y'all. Um, Obviously, I know a lot about your background. Tell folks a little bit about what you're doing. Like, why were you leaving DCA and flying out to Phoenix today? Um, yeah, tell folks like what your day job is because it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I was flying out to Phoenix to go speak at an organization called the Policy Circle. is on these issues, but then also do a lot of speaking and helping people to try to make sense of what's happening in this crazy world and where those two worlds are intersecting.
Yeah. So she's like a crazy smart cookie because she sees lenses and she picks up on things that just continue to like blow my mind. So the fact that like we have this sort of moment where she had right place, right time, right phone. Like, that's another thing that you talked about in your essay today was that you just happen to have, like, a new iPhone where the camera has a crazy zoom, like, a crazy, really powerful camera.
Yeah, because I was taking all this content for social media, and my old phone just ran out of space, and so I decided to splurge and get the new phone right away. And it was actually a New York Times photo editor that was like, "Thank God for the 8-time optical zoom on this." And I was like, "Oh, I hadn't even thought about that." That like, yeah, the phone quality made a huge difference to be able to get that shot.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanna talk a little bit so my work is as a publishing strategist, and when I saw you publish that essay, I knew what you had to do to turn it around, and I instinctively wanted to just get on a live stream with you to talk about, like, just the process of trusting your instincts and like, to post it in the first place, and then what prompted you to write that essay because you got that essay out for your readers with a pretty fast turnaround and really gave us an inside look at, just the different factors of how it was even, like I think you had, like, friends saying, like, credit her," like, advocating for you. So tell us a little bit about, like, just, like, what it felt like to go, like, how am I gonna bring this and keep this going, or am I just gonna let it kind of sunset?
Well, and it was hard too because I didn't wanna be like, "Look at me in the photo that I took," right? Like, it's like
Yeah.
that fine balance, and I was actually talking to my friends on that same group chat I shared it with, and I had both your voice in my head and theirs because you've been pushing me to do a lot more around breaking news and not necessarily wait for it to be perfect or, like, try to make sure that, like, I have all my ducks in a row and getting stuff out. And I came from a journalism background. I went to school for journalism. So sort of that speed and instinct I apparently still have a little bit of.
Yeah.
Um, but my friends were like, you should really I was like, I think I'm gonna post something on Sunday, my usual weekly reads. I'll post a little bit about what this is. And my friends were like, no, this is actually a really big deal. Like you should post something. And so before I went to bed last night, I did a voice memo to myself, just reflections of the entire day because it had been such a whirlwind because it was just nonstop from when I took off to when I landed and then, just winding down right before I went to bed. And I was like, I'll take this in the morning and see like if I've got something here. And so then I woke up early and I like to use AI to kind of help me when I do voice memos like that to help me to figure out like, hey, what are the themes here? What might I say? And so I made some coffee, talked, and shared a little bit of the draft with my friends on that group chat. But I was just like, I'm just gonna get this out. Like I was even like, I'm not even gonna do a title test. Like I'm just gonna hit send because I was like, I know what it's like to kind of have a day two of a story like this. And I felt like I was like, oh, I bet there's a lot of people on Substack who hadn't seen that I had taken a photo or didn't know it was me who took the photo. I'm getting a lot of messages right now from people being like, oh my God, I saw that. Like I didn't know it was you, and including First Lady Laura Bush's chief of staff. I was sitting next to her at this conference. And
Oh,
after I
great.
got down off stage, she goes, Katie, I didn't know that was you that took the photo. And we had never met before. And so she was like, oh, we got to stay in touch and all that. So it was kind of serendipitous that I was sitting next to the chief of staff or former first lady for a picture I took of the East Wing being taken down. I don't know what the universe is all aligning right now.
Yeah.
It is kind of
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Um, well, I know, like, we've sort of been exploring together, like, how do you trust, like, what wants to be written versus what you think should be written? And, obviously, I kind of know I feel like you're someone whose daily work gives you so much, you have so much richness that you could share and cull from, and I think that's been part of our conversation is, like, what rises above the noise for you, both intellectually and intuitively? Um, like, what does that feel like for you? Because I do think it's very individual for people like you who are professionals and also have potentially a newsletter they're publishing.
So A couple of things. One, I usually try to find there, in all honesty, there's just a gut feeling. There's a gut feeling of what people are talking about, what they want to hear about, what it is that I want to tap into. And so some things I try to plan out, but a lot of times I'm just kind of like, what am I hearing in conversations that I'm having with other people? The second thing is though, what is my unique perspective? Like I don't want to just see another person jumping on a bandwagon when there's other people that can be providing that perspective. So, what unique twists can I put on it? Where am I? What conversations am I hearing across different, like in nonprofit land or think tank land or in the left and the right, like in tech? Where can I pull in different stuff that people may not have heard of as part of all of it? And then I think too is not done is better than perfect, not letting perfection be the enemy of the
Yeah.
good on a lot of this. And so really trying to like on this one, I was just like, I'm just hitting, I read it a couple times and then I was just like, I'm hitting send. Because I could sit here and read it constantly all day. And I knew the importance of sort of getting that out there in the morning East Coast time and having it be there for the West Coast. But it really is sort of trial and error of trying to see what it is that people are interested and want to hear from me.
Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about how so you had this sort of like moment and I want to like reiterate for people who are watching right now that like going viral is never the strategy, it's how you actually respond to going viral. And I feel like that's what makes this story, this conversation really interesting is that everyday writers and authors and entrepreneurs have these moments of like currency building around them. And I feel like you had the currency of like, this is something that's impacting our world right now. And there are all these layers to it. And you were able to just sort of listen and touch into that. And I would just love to just offer that to everybody who's watching, or if you're watching the replay, that like you can cultivate these same qualities, that you don't have to go viral in an airplane that happened to catch this picture, that like the same qualities of curiosity and trust and just going with it, going for it like Katie did, those are available to you too. And that I think a couple years ago I wrote an essay called like Luck Needs a Place to Land. Like you just happen to be following like your life's work and this thing happened into your life. And
Well,
so
it's
I
like
wonder
Ina
what you'd
Garten.
like to say on that.
Well, I don't know if you ever read Ina Garten's book. I think it's Be Ready When the Luck Happens, her memoir. It's fantastic. And
Yeah.
I feel like that was a little bit of where I was with this one. There was a combination of, right, because I got upgraded. I normally never sit in a window seat. I was supposed to be in an aisle seat in the back, more in Comfort Plus. I mean, I'm a Delta Allegiant
Yeah.
loyalist. But so
Yeah.
it was a last minute upgrade to the right seat. I happened to look up because I knew it was a good view and my phone happened to, sometimes I fumble and I miss the shot. Like I just happened, like it all came together in a way that like again was not conscious of taking the picture. But then when you stood there and thinking, you're like, oh my God, I think this could not even just it could be something. I was just like, I think people might find this interesting. I'll post this on socials. And then you start to see it go viral. And so then it was like, okay, and I wanted to make sure as many people as possible could see it. And the conversations are very split in my feeds. From some people are very happy about it, some people are not very happy about it. But it gave some people in a conversation that had really taken off, in particularly in DC and other places this week, a new visual in which to use as part of everything that was happening. So I was really, in some ways, if you want to use the metaphor of a wave, I was really trying to just go with the flow of the wave rather than resisting it and kind of figuring like, I'll try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But, this has actually turned out to be a very fun experiment.
Yeah. No, I think like being ready for when it shows up is like pretty much the whole game, right? So I am mindful of the time. I'm mindful of the fact that you were in the Delta Lounge right now, and we've only got a couple more minutes before you have to board your plane. I I'm going to share a link to the actual essay, and I'll share it again also in the replay. Everybody go and just give it some love. Like Katie has been, this is a, we forget sometimes that newsletters are a labor of love. And in this case, she literally squeezed this in between landing and then going to speak somewhere else. But I'm wondering if we have just a couple of minutes, does anybody have any questions that you want to ask me or want to ask Katie about just this idea that, going viral isn't a strategy, but like being ready for it. Anybody, and if you do, or if you're just curious about what Katie does, feel free to ask any questions. We'll hang around for another couple minutes before we let Katie go on her way. While we give folks a second, I'm going to share the link to the actual piece. So that's the piece right there that you all can take a look at. Oops. Give folks just a second.
Yeah, and I'm happy to answer questions on really anything that people might have. It doesn't have to be just
Yeah.
on this, but I do so appreciate everybody joining and listening. And I'm sorry I'm coming from the Delta Lounge. It was the only place I could do this from. And also very welcome any outreach or question or anything like that. I'm not hard to find on Substack. So
Yeah.
welcome any of that too.
Yeah. Mhm. I'll add one final comment of what I found really interesting about this essay is how helpful it was that you could send the original file to the media so they could see the metadata to know that like it was authentic. It had come from a real person's phone. Um, I was like, oh, that made me. I haven't been in a newsroom in a really long time, but it made me just harken back to like, how do we make sure these are authentic photos? What a
Well,
gift to be like send it.
and I had somebody on Twitter being like, guys, this is fake because there's no way they would allow planes to get this close to the White House. And normally I wouldn't respond to something like that. But I actually went to FlightAware, pulled a screenshot, and provided the link because I was like, I totally get it. Because before I moved to DC, I was like, there's no way this would be allowed. And I was like, and I moved there in 2003 and that you could drive in the Pentagon parking lot. And I'm like, how could you do that after 9/11?
Yeah,
And so there was a lot of being able to kind of prove, if you will, to folks that it was a real picture and that I had taken it. And so I was like, this was my seat, this was my flight. Here's all the things that I can do to prove to you that I actually took this shot.
yeah. I just had this happen to me. Oh, Catherine says that she loves the Panic Responsibly merch.
Thank you, Catherine. For those that aren't familiar, Panic Responsibly is my mantra. You can get merch at panicresponsibly.com, but it is really about how we can be very consumed by fear right now, fear of AI, fear of losing jobs, fear of everything that is happening. But we really need to, and there's things we definitely need to be worried about, but we need to separate out the signal from the noise and find ways in which to move forward around all of that and not get paralyzed by fear with everything that's happening and changing in our world.
That's awesome. Yep. No, it's true. Katie's got a lot to share, and we've been talking about a series where we're going to deep dive into all the aspects of Panic Responsibly. So be sure you subscribe and listen to Katie. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up here. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. Like I said, the replay will be available with all the links to find it. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your time, Katie, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. All right, bye.
Bye, folks.